Hi there. Today I want to talk about a new indicator that I've been working on, the crypto market risk indicator. And this essentially takes some inspiration from my other video that I was talking about, where I was talking about the Bitcoin risk levels. So you can see that essentially when Bitcoin's price hits a top level, it corresponds to around a red level for Bitcoin, and it corresponds when you have a bear market, it corresponds to typically these blue regions for Bitcoin's price. So, and you can also see this for Ethereum, for a lot of other altcoins, which will be available on chartinspect.com. You can join my Telegram link in the description below if you want to access these charts. So today I want to talk about the crypto market risk, which essentially takes a top 10, top 25, top 100, whichever one you want to look at, by market cap, all these coins and conglomerating them into sort of one indicator that essentially shows the overall market risk and volatility at that given time. So it essentially combines the individual risks equally, and each risk level is calculated with diminishing returns in mind, as well as applying a machine learning technique which normalizes the values to provide a 0 to 1 range. So I wanted to show how this can sort of describe the volatility or what area we are in the crypto markets as it relates to altcoins, Ethereum, and Bitcoin as well. So if there's one chart that really exemplifies this idea really well, and that's the total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin chart. And this essentially shows the performance of altcoins. Total 3 is not including Bitcoin or Ethereum. So if you subtract USDT, you're essentially going from a 0 to 1 range. And then dividing that by Bitcoin's market cap, and that'll essentially give you this chart. So whenever this chart is going up, it essentially means that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin at that certain point, which you can ascribe to an altcoin season essentially. And when this chart is going down, you can essentially see that altcoins are bleeding against Bitcoin. So if you overlay the Bitcoin price, you can actually see this a little bit easier. And you can see that essentially every time that altcoins outperform Bitcoin, Bitcoin tends to lead that rally. So you can see it happened in November 2017. Bitcoin led this rally into the 2017 bull market, and only thereafter altcoins started to sort of hit these mania phases up here. Altcoins topped actually in 2018, and Bitcoin actually, or against Bitcoin, and Bitcoin USD topped in December, around December 7th, 2017. And you can see essentially the same thing happened in 2021, where Bitcoin got this massive mania phase up, and altcoins only followed thereafter around a month after, and then even and then went into this distribution phase as Bitcoin sort of topped out into that 2021 in October. And you can sort of see where similarly where it bled against Bitcoin was essentially in the bear market, and essentially all these altcoins bled against Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin had essentially gone down and then started trending up. Altcoins still bled even though Bitcoin went up. So this is sort of a relative valuation showing that even though Bitcoin went up in price, altcoins bled against Bitcoin, and people essentially either sold their altcoins to Bitcoin or sold their altcoins in general. And you can essentially see this occurring now as well. And you might be wondering why, even though Bitcoin's going up, altcoins are bleeding. But if you look at in 2021, we had that mania phase, the bull market. In 2017, we had the bull market. These were bear market years in which Bitcoin went down and altcoins went down against Bitcoin. But now we're seeing the opposite sort of play out, in the sense that even though Bitcoin is going up, we have this bull market. Altcoins are still bleeding against Bitcoin, even though we're in the bull market, and they should have sort of gone up by now, right? Well, if you overlay the assets held by the Federal Reserve, which you can essentially see anytime this goes down, we can sort of see that altcoins flock to the relative safety of Bitcoin, the king. Whenever it goes down, you can sort of see altcoins flock to the relative safety of Bitcoin, the king. And I think that if we get a cut by the Federal Reserve, the market's actually expecting that in September of 2025, so in 2 months or 3 months from now, then I would sort of see, once we get the Federal Reserve to start to roll over the balance sheet, then I think altcoins could very well follow Bitcoin in that sense. So I wanted to show how this relates to the risk indicator here. So you can see on this chart, we're only considering the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap and calculating the risk values and equally dividing them up and then showcasing on the chart. But if you look at the top 25 by market cap, you can essentially see this changes sort of. So you can sort of see, let's just focus in on this top in December of 2024. So it topped around 76, the average risk. If you look at the top 25, it's around 76. And then if you look at the top 50, this topped around 70. And you can also see around this level where we recently had the drop to 79K, that even went further down in terms of risk, which is accounting for diminishing returns and applying a normalization technique. So if you account for this recent drop of 79K compared to 2024 in August, when we had that drop to 56K, 48K, the low, you can see that on the top 25, we actually hit a higher high in terms of the risk level. But if you add more altcoins to the calculation, we actually hit a lower low, a lower high on this, or a lower high on the risk level. Similarly, if you actually go onto the top 100, you can see that we actually hit a much lower low in terms of risk. And if you keep going down the line, you see top 250 altcoins, we're actually at an average risk of 20, which is a low risk on the chart. And then if you consider the top 500 altcoins, we actually hit a new cycle low for this period in which the risk has essentially gone down. And this sort of outlines what I was talking about. If you look at total 3 minus ETH by Bitcoin, you can see that altcoins have essentially been bleeding for the past 4 years against Bitcoin, and the risk levels sort of show the same thing. Now, I wanted to showcase sort of the Ethereum valuation in terms of the overall market indicator, in the market risk indicator, because Ethereum can essentially correspond to these really deep mania phases for the market cap, or for the asset. And if you sort of zoom in on these levels here, you can see that whenever Ethereum USD goes up to around its top, you can sort of see the risk tops out at this time. Same thing happened over in 2021, where we hit the high of 3.7K for Ethereum, and you can sort of see the risk started going up during that time, and then sort of fell back down, and then sort of went back up after we hit around a 4.6K for Ethereum. Similarly, this cycle, although Ethereum has been bleeding against Bitcoin, you can sort of see that these risk values have been muted compared to prior cycles because of the fact that Ethereum's been essentially bleeding against Bitcoin this entire time. And only now have we seen Ethereum sort of bottom against Bitcoin on its Bitcoin pair. And that also corresponded to altcoins in the top 500 market cap, sort of putting in this new cycle low around 14.9% risk. And if you show the color on this, you can sort of see it a little bit better. So if you put these risk levels here, you can sort of see where that corresponds to. So yeah, I just want to discuss how the total market cap, total market risk indicator sort of corresponds to the entire altcoin market cap, how the Federal Reserve plays into that, and when maybe we could see the next mania phase for alts. I would say now that we've hit this new cycle low for altcoins on the risk pairs, I think that you can sort of, I personally think that once the Fed cuts rates and we sort of see a looser monetary policy by the Federal Reserve, then I think we can sort of see Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the entire altcoin market sort of hit new all-time highs by the end of 2026, and then see Bitcoin essentially go back down into the bear market years after 2026, or by the end of 2025. I mean, I think we'll see a new all-time high by Bitcoin, and thereafter in 2026, early 2026, probably altcoins will hit their all-time high, 12.3, and then Ethereum, and then altcoins, and then we sort of see the bear market years play out like they always have. Sorry, I didn't mean to draw it that low. Sort of the bear market years play out, and then we follow from there. So thank you guys for watching. If you like this content, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment what you want to see next. I have a Telegram link where you can in the description where you can see these charts. The website's not out yet, but if you join, you'll be the first ones access to it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye.